Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Today is another episode of 3D Interference. And what I want to focus on today is manifestation. I think that I've spoken about manifestation for quite some time now, even when I first started this channel. Gosh, I don't even know how many years it's been now, maybe 3.5, 4 years ago. I spoke about it in my first book that I wrote, and there's just so much to say about it, and I think it's ever changing for various reasons, which I'll get into today. But I really want to talk. I think there's a lot of misconceptions, and it comes up a lot in my sessions, in my private classes that I teach. People have a lot of questions about it. And I think that it's really important right now because manifestation is a big part of our ascension. It's a big part of what people are looking to co-create with one another and humanity. And, there's a lot of great books out there. Many of you have heard of The Secret. I think most people on the planet who are awake to some degree have heard of the book, The Secret, that came out years and years ago. But the problem with The Secret, I believe it gives us a lot of information, but it leaves out some important components of the recipe. And I think that there are a lot of misconceptions with regard to manifestation in general. And so I really want to call this talk today kind of the truth about manifestation, because I think a lot of people, they try it. They try to attract the energy that they look to receive, which is a really important part of it. But there's so much more to it. And I think as we evolve consciously, and our consciousness shifts, or our awareness shifts, even our perception shifts, we discover there is so much more that we don't know, and that's okay. We're learning, but when we realize that we don't know everything, we realize that the protocols created in some of these books don't necessarily relate anymore. And I think this is true for any teaching. And I had a class recently that I just talked about this, that I've had a lot of teachers in my life that had, whether it was career oriented or job, or something to do with my work or schooling at some point, especially university level, or mentors that I've had, or even classes that I've taken, metaphysical type esoteric classes that I've taken in the past. A big majority of the teachers that I've had seemingly have really made it clear in their style of teaching that there is one way. There's a dominant way to do certain things, and they kind of hone in on that particular thing, especially when we're learning protocols and things like that, techniques. And what I have discovered, and I never aligned with that. So what I've discovered in my years of kind of my own journey and working with my own clients is, just when you feel like you figured something out, you realize there's so much more to it. And it's interesting because I've had a lot of sessions with clients over the years that they're kind of their alternate self, the wisdom that comes through from their higher self, shares other lifetimes that this particular person has had at some point in their kind of life trajectory of experiences. And they've said, I had it all wrong in that life. I thought it had to be this way. I thought you could only do it in this particular order or this particular way. And that's what we were taught ancestrally. That's how generations after generations were taught this particular thing. And a good example of that is a healing modality, even something as basic as Reiki. And they realized after they crossed over and they had like this whoosh of knowing of all that is the divine, collective consciousness of experiences of all, where you have all parts of the story, not just yours. You realize, oh my gosh, there's so many more options. So I've adopted that methodology in my training and my teaching, even from when I was young, when I would teach up and coming, vet techs that would come into clinics or the ICU, and I would train them. And I would always tell them, this is my way to do it. But if you find a better way, I'd love for you to show me. And I'm not talking about the math and things like that, like it had to be specifically done in a very precise way. But, when you're putting a central line in, or a jugular catheter or urinary catheter, or a chest tube or something like that. You know, everybody had their style. And I worked with some techs, even vets that say you have to do it this way. This is the only way. And I'm like, well, actually, like I like the way that I do it just fine. It works for me. And so it could be basic skills in any job of anybody watching this that they've done, or that they do, or just any life principle in general. It doesn't really matter. It kind of relates to anything. There isn't a one way to do anything. And for those people who are very closed-minded and feel as though things have to be a certain way, I think that they are very programmed into the matrix, which is kind of how we are programmed throughout our lives here in this reality. Is very left brain, very analytical, very cognitive. You know, memorize this protocols, do it this way. Don't think outside the box. You know, that's not regarded in this reality as a beneficial trait. Those people are looked at as the black sheep, or the conspiracy theorist, or, you know, those people that think outside of the box. You know, those labeled with dyslexia, or other labels are outside of the box thinkers, but they are labeled with something that actually puts them down and makes them feel like they are not as good as everybody else, or they have a mental challenge. But in reality, it's a gift. I've talked about that many times. And so to get back to my point, I feel as though manifestation is one of those that has been, you know, sprinkled with, okay, do it this way, but we haven't really been taught a lot of the other layers to it, because we are multidimensional beings. And so I want to talk about that, because manifestation is wonderful. I mean, the more right brain we are tapped into, the more creative side, the more we are connected to our higher knowing and the big picture. And again, I always talk about the micro versus the macro level. The more macro we are able to alter our perception to see more things, to relate to more people, to be more forgiving, to be less judgmental, because we're seeing all the parts of the puzzle. We're not just seeing it from our vision, from our vantage point. Instead of being very subjective, it's more objective. And so when we have new agey kind of movements inserted into our kind of matrix, I guess, manifestation being one of them, I think that there's a lot of false teachings with regard to that, because I don't think that they really want us to know the full picture of how to truly manifest, because of the fact that we're multidimensional beings. There's so much more if you look from that macro level than in the micro, but we're always taught so much to follow the micro. You know, okay, do this first, and then after that do this, and then when you do that, then you do this, and you follow the order that in which you're given, like an instruction manual. And that's not the way manifestation works. That's not the way most metaphysical practices or esoteric practices work. We have to get out of that 3D mentality and expand our consciousness and our perception to something much greater than ourselves even. And so why I bring that up is because when we are manifesting as a collective, there are a lot more elements to it. When you take yourself away from the collective and you manifest individually as opposed to collectively, that becomes more challenging, because there's so many more variables it's really hard to separate ourselves from everybody else, because we don't realize the roles that we take on when we come into this life, and the roles that we take on for others in their life. And I didn't understand this until much later in my life. And once it made sense to me, it shifted and altered my perception on basically everything. And I've talked about this in workshops and presentations that I've done, and in interviews and other videos, that we sometimes get so connected and so anchored into this 3D and we're taught so much about division and hierarchies and these structures in this reality, that we forget that we truly are connected to everyone else. And like I've said a million times, we can learn off of each other's experiences, even people across the world that I will never meet. Their failures, their successes, their good times, their bad times, and everything in between is funneled into our collective web of knowledge. So I don't ever have to know these people or everybody on the planet to benefit from their lessons that they're learning and the experiences that we're having, because we're all playing a role, and we need a lot of us down here to play different roles, to do different things, because the more of us there are, the more we learn as a collective. So that's why when people have near-death experiences, or they have an awakening, a really massive shift, or they're under hypnosis, or whatever the kind of the circumstances are, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, Sherri, I reached this level where I was in this reality or this knowing, and I just knew everything, and it was a beautiful space, no judgment, just complete, almost not even just love. It was neutrality and balance, and I knew everything, and I knew why, about everything, just anything I could possibly know." In that moment, you just have this conscious awareness of, "Oh my God, I know everything." But then when you pop back into the reality, and you go back into your physical self, and you're not in that altered state anymore of consciousness, so we know we had the experience, we know it was profound, and we might be able to pick up elements of what we knew in that collective moment, but our brains aren't possibly able to hold on to all of that information. Otherwise we would just short circuit. I think that's what happens a lot of time. Anyways, and I've talked about that as well. Our short-term memory is going, and we're kind of like, the cloud is similar to the collective consciousness. So any information that I save right now in the cloud or whatever, in the web of information, the database, we have something similar as a collective with humanity and consciousness. So anything that I experience or learn or know goes into that interconnected web of information called the Akashic Records. There's lots of different names for it, much like the computer. So it's just another version of the same thing, but much more profound and incredible. But we as we evolve, we don't need to store all this information on our hard drive, which is our brain, because it's too dense, it's too much information, and it can just kind of alter our ability to transmute a lot of things, because it's just too much. So instead, we are losing our short-term memory, and we are going to start accessing more quickly the information from the collective, and also our own knowledge and wisdom in a moment. So we don't have to store it all. But anyways, that's a completely different thing. I'm not sure why I even went there. But to rein it back in, when we come into this reality, before we come into this life, we've chosen our families, we've chosen the good times, the bad times, we've chosen all of these things, and we've chosen the antagonists in our life. So those people who are going to play profound roles but really hurt us. And that might magnify with human emotion, and it might get accelerated and get out of proportion. And maybe we didn't really plan for it to get that big. But again, that's all part of the human experience. So whether we decide to have a sickness and feel what that feels like to work through that, or somebody else in our family is really ill and we're going to take care of them and play the role of the caregiver, or whatever it may be, we have this grand plan, these blueprints that, of course, we have a certain degree of free will when we come in, that will dictate how the choices we make or how we navigate through these experiences with our emotional energy that kind of can either support it or hinder it, and all different facets of that as well. So it's very complicated. So I don't even understand it to the full degree of what it actually means, and I doubt many people do either. So I'm not trying to explain it exactly the way, but just to give people an idea of how profound and how complicated it is, and how multidimensional it is, and all the people, and even that one person that you pass on the street or pass in the store, it once in your entire life, that could change everything for you by one thing they say. And it might even it might not even be to you. You may overhear somebody in the grocery store talking to someone else, and you just happen to walk by in that moment, and you hear them say something so profound to you that isn't even that big of a deal, but the way it's said, and the manner in which it's said, in the moment that you heard it, and all the elements that you've decided ahead of time that will take place, it could be like a magical boom of a rush, of a surge of energy that can shift everything in your life just based on that experience. And you may not even talk to that person. So we don't know who and when and why. And I think that's also by design for the most part. So when we have these experiences here, we don't always connect the dots. Maybe we do later. That's why we always say hindsight is 2020. So why do I keep, where am I going with this? And I hope I'm not losing you. It's just there's so much to explain. It's really difficult to explain this in a way that makes sense. And I always pride myself on trying my best to explain things really well, because if you can't explain it well, then you don't know it enough yourself. So if I don't do well explaining, then clearly I'm not, I don't know enough about that. I shouldn't be talking about it. So with regard to manifestation, if we don't understand or understand our divine plan here in this life, it's difficult for us to try to manifest what it is that's in our highest interest for all parties involved, because we don't, if we're not plugged into that and we're not tapped into that innate knowing, then we can be trying to manifest the wrong things. And it can be very superficial and very materialistic. So the most basic example I can give is, maybe somebody has been struggling their whole life with poverty. And they read the book, The Secret, and they're like, oh, brilliant. All I have to do is think positively, and I'll think about money and gratitude, and I'll attract that into my life. And then if it doesn't occur, then that person gets discouraged. They say it doesn't work for them. They're not good enough. They're not worthy for whatever reason. It works for other people and not me. And all it does is put them down this shame spiral of what's wrong with me? Why can't I have it? And that's not fair. And that's not what manifestation is about. But let's say that person didn't realize or doesn't realize consciously in this life that perhaps they have been well off in many lives. Maybe they've had everything that they've needed. Maybe they were a king or a queen in one life, or royalty, or just very well off and very successful. And they got to a point in their evolutionary process that they said, you know what? I'm kind of bored with having all of this and having and I want to experience something different. So I'm going to go in a lifetime. I'm going to have nothing. And my goal is to work for everything that I have, so I can feel what that feels like. And sometimes people want to have that yin and yang experience, so that, hopefully when they're in that life of success, they can look at the people that are not successful or that are struggling and not look down on them, but with a sense of compassion, and say, maybe they want to help, or maybe in another life they become humanitarian and they are helping those people. So there's so many facets to all of this that we don't always recognize, but we have self-pity because that's part of 3D programming and interference. And why not me? Why I don't deserve better, or maybe I want better, and why don't I deserve it? And all of these crazy questions that people have. But in that example, if that person had many lives of success and financial abundance, and they said, okay, I really want to feel what it's like to not have that handed to me, and I really have to work, and put me in the most difficult poverty stricken area, and I will succeed. I will do my best, and I'll see how I can navigate through that. Okay. So they don't remember, they come on back into this life, they struggle a lot. They see poverty all around them. And, there are some lucky ones that are just so connected to their divine blueprint and plan that they are bulldozers and they will not stop at anything. And they are the few that do get out of that poverty, and they become, really wealthy and really successful. And they were never derailed by 3D interference. But then there are others that come in and they don't realize how challenging it could be, not only to be in this 3D reality, but then to be in the poverty regions, which are targeted even more by 3D interference and all of this, so much more to that than you all know, that I don't need to say. And they get discouraged. And so they come from a place of desperation, and then they look to manifest. I want abundance, or I'm going to manifest a great job, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and I'm going to be a billionaire, or I'm going to win the lottery. Well, if it wasn't part of your divine plan to win the lottery, or to be a millionaire, or even to have a great job that you really wanted, then unfortunately, that may not happen for you. So if you are trying to manifest and focus just on that, it probably, I don't say definitively it won't, but it's likely not to happen in that way. So then if somebody is looking to manifest and it doesn't work in that way, then they get discouraged and say, "Oh, manifestation doesn't work. It's a bunch of baloney," and then they get upset about it, and then perhaps they should spiral into negativity and so on. So, is that person not able to manifest? No. Is that person manifesting incorrectly? Not exactly, but they're going about it the wrong way. Because they don't know all the elements of the things that they signed up for. Now, I don't believe people truly sign up to suffer, like really hardcore suffer, although maybe some have. Maybe some people have done really horrible things and they come in and they're like, okay, let me suffer this time. I really want to feel the other end of this. But I think for the most part, people just want to have the experience, but not necessarily the accelerated, deep, dark version of it, at least not consciously from another space where things are more neutral. I don't think people really want that for the most part. So how you look at this situation is you shift your thinking, say, okay, well, I don't know, I don't have that ability at this moment to know what my life plan is. I know that I have the ability to do it. I know I'm special just like anyone else, and we can all do it. But right now, I can't do that. So how do we manifest then? So what we do is we shift our thoughts and what it is that we're attracting. So does the person that came in and wanted to experience poverty have to suffer and never be successful? Not necessarily. Perhaps they wanted to experience it for a certain amount of time, and then when something clicked or something shifted in them, then they would have some sort of an exit point or not an exit point, but a period or a lifeline where they would meet somebody and they would get a certain job that would lead to something else, and then they would still have to work hard for it, and maybe they're going to work hard their whole life, and it might not be the 9 to 5 corporate job that they were dreaming of getting because they thought that is what success means. Maybe they're going to be labor workers or whatever it may be, and that's what they wanted, but they do well and they have a steady job, and then they have a steady flow of income, and they kind of learn that lesson, whatever it is that they're looking to learn. Maybe that's what they wanted. So they didn't necessarily come in wanting to struggle their whole life and never have the money and be practically homeless, but they wanted to learn a valuable lesson, have experiences, grow from them, and then maybe it takes a shorter period of time. Maybe they don't need to spend their entire life struggling, if that makes sense. Hopefully everyone's understanding what I'm saying. So that's where the free will comes in, because I believe that if I chose that, if that was me in this example and I chose to come in, I would say, okay, I'll struggle until I have learned the appropriate lesson, whatever it is I came into. Now, that could take 5 years of my adulthood, that could take 20 years, and that could take my entire life and longer. So I believe that the free will component comes into, okay, are we going to take this serious, and how are we going to persevere, and how long will that take? And it could take fast, it could be less time, or it could be longer. So how do you manifest? Knowing all of those elements. So I feel like there are 3 main points to manifestation. One, you want to ask yourself, is what I'm attempting to manifest in alignment with my highest good? So that's number 1. So what are you trying to manifest? Okay, well, I don't want to be in poverty anymore. I want to work. I want to have financial stability. Maybe not abundance, but I want to attain stability for the first phase. Okay. So what is in alignment with your highest good? And maybe you don't know what that is. So you simply are manifesting, okay, I want the experiences. I am attracting or manifesting the experiences into my life that are in alignment with my core mission and my highest good. So you are basically saying, I'm not going to give you the exact recipe of what I want, because maybe we don't know what that is. So I'm just going to say that I am going to put the energy out there that I don't have to suffer, and it only needs to be as challenging as it needs to be for my highest good. So your language shifts so that it aligns with your core mission, but it doesn't have to be as bad as it could be. So think about your words and how you're manifesting and the words you're using. The other element to it that's also extremely important is you want to make sure that what you're asking for is also in alignment with the highest good of those involved. So do you want to hurt somebody else in the process? No. Do you want to steal someone else's job and they become homeless? Well, not necessarily, and maybe unless that was predestined or something, but we're not thinking along those lines. So you want to say now, I am manifesting the lifestyle or abundance that's in alignment with my core mission and my highest good and the highest good of those involved. So now you have a blanket statement like that. Now, the other key to manifestation is having gratitude as if it's already occurred. So now we've identified the things that we're manifesting, but we want to make sure that our intention and what we're putting out into the universe is that we have gratitude for the fact that it's already said and done. And that is what I've attracted. And so it is. And I'm so grateful that that abundance and stability is coming to me. That's in my highest good and in the highest good of all involved. So now you're taking it a step further and you're saying, I am so grateful, because gratitude is even higher in frequency than love. Like I've said before, love is such an ambiguous word. I don't even think people truly connect with the notion of love anymore, because it's so battered in this reality and what the word love truly means. So if you take it just a step higher and say, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I attract positive experiences into my life. I am universally supported, protected, and loved. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that the people that I invite into my life are for my highest good only, or are in alignment with my highest good. I'm so grateful that I am financially stable at this time. And so it is. And you reiterate that you are grateful for what it is that you are looking to attract, as if it has already occurred. Because sometimes I think people try to manifest in a state of desperation. And I admittedly have been there, and I have done that as well, where I have been at my wit's end and I have put myself in a place of such vulnerability and such desperation, and basically the micro. I've looked at my situation like this. Can anybody see clearly when they're looking at their situation like this? I don't think so. That's just my opinion. So I was so desperate because all I could see was what was right in front of me. And so I was attracting more challenges, because the universe is like, well, Sherri, until you take your hand out of your face and you see what's actually occurring around you, you'll see the greater picture and you'll understand more why you're experiencing these things. And then once you get it and you accept it and understand it, then things will shift. And once that really resonated with me and I really understood that, and I mean really understood it, everything made sense to me and everything in my life shifted. And I wasn't so like, oh, why is all this bad stuff happening to me? I'm such a good person. Why? I took myself out of that victim mode and I placed myself in a place of empowerment of, okay, I understand why all of these things happen to me. Maybe not 100%, but I understand the gist of my core mission here. And I signed up for certain experiences in order to learn from them. And I'm not going to let them cripple me, and I'm not going to let them anchor me into the 3D reality. And I will learn from them and I'm going to grow. And therefore, I surrender and I release my attachment to these lessons and experiences. And then I just flew like a bird, and it's like the universe released me. So it's all about surrendering. One of the biggest misconceptions that we have is, for an example of that is, let's say we're at someone's bedside in the hospital and we're praying and praying, please God, save my family member. I've been there, when I had my grandmother with dementia dying in the hospital. Please God, save her. I've been there. And I realized much later in life that I was doing it wrong. One, I needed to surrender to the fact that if this is what's in the highest good for her and her crossing over then it's not for me to beg for her to come back, because it's her free will. But the second thing I realized was that I was praying wrong, incorrectly. I was begging. And what I should have done, and what I've done since then with other things in my life, is I visualized that person not in the hospital bed, not in that place of vulnerability and sickness, but outside, with completely well. So an easy example, when my children are really sick, or they've broken their arm, or something has happened to them in the past, I don't focus on the injury or what's going on. I close my eyes and I meditate, that of them getting better, and I visualize them, their arm out of the cast and not broken anymore, or whatever it is, and I focus my energy solely on, I'm so grateful that my daughter is now well. I'm so grateful that my son's arm is healed. I'm so grateful that everybody is well, or whatever the circumstances. But you also have to recognize that surrendering is also very powerful, because we have to surrender control. I think part of the programming in this reality is that we are so left brain trained that we have to control everything. And once we release the burden of not having to control, then again, our perception will shift, and we recognize, oh, this may not be what I wanted, but maybe this is what's best. The next and last, well, not the last, but the next thing that I want to talk about with manifestation is, and I'm not sure how to word this exactly, but this is a valuable lesson. I couldn't think of the word. It's a valuable lesson that I have learned for myself, is because of the fact that some of us are very particular about, or controlling about our situation and how things are going to manifest, or the details. We get so focused and pinpointed on these minute details, and sometimes we miss the bigger picture. And I'm like, no, I want, like, for example, when I was trying to manifest, when I was practicing manifest, you got to be careful with your words. When I was practicing my manifestation of the Aramis Creative Learning Centers years ago, before I was even calling it Aramis, Divinely Guided Children, I was visualizing this beautiful home that I wanted, that I saw in the Bethesda area that was beautiful. It would have made a beautiful school. And I focused my attention on, I visualized children in there and all of this stuff. And I'm like, why am I not getting it? And what I realized is I was focusing too much on the minute details of a space that wasn't for me, wasn't for us. It wasn't even in the right state. So sometimes we got to take a step back. And when we manifest, we surrender to the idea that it could be what we are visualizing, but also something better. So you're letting the universe know that I am visualizing and manifesting a beautiful Aramis Creative Learning Center in Florida, that's of the highest good of all involved. And I surrender to how many acres it is, how big the actual physical building is, how many horses there are. I've surrendered all that now. And now I don't focus on, oh, I have to have 2 horses and it has to be 9 acres and all of that. It's gone now. And now I say, I am so grateful that I have manifested into reality a beautiful center where children are safe and free to be themselves, in this reality, in this time and space, and some other details. And I just leave it at that. And I don't keep the specifics, because I know now that it's going to be what I'm imagining, or something even better that I couldn't have even thought of. I wouldn't have even thought of years ago that I would be in Florida and it would be anywhere near here. So I was focusing all my attention on manifesting this center in the wrong place. Was I wrong? No, I wasn't expanding my vision to the possibilities that it could be even grander. So to sum up, you want to when you're looking through your kind of manifestation checklist, is it in alignment with your higher purpose or your soul's mission or your core mission, however you want to say it? Does it align? Or is it such a tongue twister? Is it in alignment with all parties, the highest good of all parties involved? Um, could it be even bigger than I'm imagining, or opening that space up for it? Um, having gratitude as if it's already taken place, and releasing and surrendering, so you're not coming from a place of desperation. And the last thing is, I have adopted, and I've learned a lot of things over the years, and I've studied a lot. And for a while, I was working with access consciousness. So I did access bars, and there are access access consciousness facilitators. It's a whole thing. I eventually broke away because I don't like to attach myself to anything. 100%. That's just my own thing. I like to take elements, and then I like to be sovereign. So I don't feel like I'm being controlled by any particular group. So, but one thing that I love about that access consciousness philosophy is, when you form things in a question, there are infinite possibilities. But when you form things as a statement, we limit ourselves, it basically explains what I was just talking about. When we limit ourselves by trying to manifest a specific thing, and it's so detailed that we don't leave room for anything else that could be better. So when you're saying, when you're making a statement, I am manifesting a 9-acre center for children in West Palm Beach location vicinity. Okay, well, I just made it very specific. Maybe I got the location wrong, and I'm going to be down in Boca, or I'm going to be up in uh, Vero Beach. I'm just making things up. But the point is, if I didn't know all the elements, then it may not happen for me exactly right here. And maybe it's going to be 10 acres. Maybe it's 8.5, not 9. So the point is, instead of making that statement, I say, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities that I can create to create a beautiful sanctuary and learning sanctuary for children in the demographic, in the area that is most beneficial for all involved at this time. And I shift my thoughts to kind of that mentality of putting the question out there, and then the universe will answer it. But you always end it when you put the question out there. Just make sure you remember that you want to finish that statement with, that's in alignment for my highest good and all involved, so that we're not leaving any interpretation or anything, mischievous, or what's the word I'm trying to think of? Malice, I guess, or whatever, that some negative beings can invert their projections onto what we're creating, and then, take it into another direction that's not of our highest good. So we want to just be clear about that. But leave yourself open to what are the possibilities? What are the infinite possibilities that we can create that is in the highest and best good for the children, that I can be a part of, that is a part of my core mission. And I'm so grateful that I get to be a part of that. Whatever you want to say, I'm having trouble thinking of the words. But basically so whatever it is that is for you, that you would like to do, you insert those things. So it's a sanctuary for animals, or veteran work, or PTSD and trauma work, or whatever it is that you are really looking to do in your life passion that you're looking to manifest or to be a part of. Because not everybody here is, I'll tell you this, I have a lot of sessions with a lot of people. I get a lot of perspectives, which is super cool, because that's how I know so many amazing things, because I've had a peek and a glimpse into so many different people's lives and their roles in humanity. But not everybody is here to create some grand thing. Not everybody is here to do that. Some people are part of somebody else's grand thing. Some people are simply here to heal, and they're feeling so much pressure, like they have to be involved in humanity in some way and do something magnificent. And I'm like, listen, you've had hundreds of years of torture and trauma, and you chose to come in this life to be a part of this ascension so you could heal. You can heal and then just be at peace. And I see you actually getting land over here and being a part of a community and just being happy. I don't see. So that's not to diminish their role and say that they're not assisting in the collective. Of course they are, because as they heal the wounds of the collective. As their energy shifts and their vibration increases and they heal their own traumas, they transmute and they vibrate out a frequency that can benefit everybody. They can do grid work and they can do help with the manifestation of so many beautiful things. Because back to the beginning of my conversation, I just talked about the individual manifestation, but there is a whole other component or element to collective manifestation. And that's what I talk about a lot in interviews, where I say, okay, instead of everybody focusing on the negative elements, the truthers that are continuously bringing out like the exhaustive amount of information on the presidents and the sons, and I don't want to say any names, I don't want to get in trouble, but or these things, or disease is coming, or all of these things that may or may not be true, but that they're focusing a lot on that, and people are focusing their energy. So what as a result of that, they are worrying. A lot of people are worrying, because I talk to a lot of clients that say, I'm worried about this. And I say, stop focusing your energy on it. Do not take a break. I think those people are serving great purpose, and I'm friends with some people that that's their job, and they bring out information, and I say, good for you. You are an active participant in the collective awakening process, and this is your role. You are helping people awaken by bringing knowledge. Good for you. I don't want to be a part of that. That's not my role. And again, no hierarchies. No one's better. I'm not better than them. They're not better than me. We're just two different roles, and there's so many different roles that people are playing. But sometimes people get so off track, and they focus all of their energy on listening to everything that these people are saying, and video after video, and Telegram group. They'll spend 6 hours on Telegram just watching reels and videos and this. And it's nice to be informed. But the problem is that when we get too derailed from our self-work, our self-healing, where the profound magic happens, because that's when we heal ancestral wounds. That's when we raise our frequency. It's really hard to raise your frequency when you're constantly watching negative things all day. So you have to take breaks from those negative things. And I don't mean for an hour or two. I mean, take a week off and then ground yourself and do some inner healing, some inner child work, and different things because that's when we co-create. What we focus our energy on is a co-creative process. So if we have a large percentage of the population just awakening and spending all of their time with the truther community, and I got to learn everything and know everything, then there's going to be a lot of fear being released with people, and unknowing and uncertainty. And now what happens is that cripples the co-creative manifestation process, because there's so much dark energy being released and emitted, and it's really hindering the evolution, the ascension, the good part of it. So it has to be a balance. And I've been there, when a lot of the stuff came out during the COVID period, and I had nothing else to do and we weren't working, and I would watch hours and hours and hours and hours and days of podcasts, and I learned a lot. But at some point I was like, all right, I think I got enough. And I would take long breaks. I'm talking months. And then I would do my own work, and I start working with clients again. And then maybe I would watch a couple of weeks of stuff, and I'd be like, all right, I feel like I've caught up, and I know enough that's going on now, because it's good to be informed. It's just a balance. So how much do you need to be informed until you feel like if you're ready to now project your energy into something beneficial, into, okay, what's the world that I want to create now that I see what I don't like, and that where the truths are being revealed to me, what do I want to participate in manifesting for the collective now, not just yourself? And I tell people, if you don't have the visionary capacity or the knowing to manifest for the collective specifics, then I always say, all you have to do is meditate, meaning, your thoughts, 5 minutes out of the day. You're drinking your morning coffee even, or you're taking a shower, or you're going on your walk, you're walking the dog, or you're laying in bed right before you go to sleep, or whenever you have a moment. And what you do is you say in your mind that you are so grateful that humanity is evolving and awakening, and we are stepping into a new era and new beginning of sovereignty and liberation for all that are involved, so that it's in the highest good. Where we are going is in the highest good of the collective, myself included. And you just you just focus on a better reality. You don't have to have the details of what that looks like, although you might. Maybe you start having visions of beautiful sanctuaries for animals, or safe centers for children to learn, or whatever comes to your mind, and then you can focus on that. Just a new world in general of joy and happiness and peace and abundance for all. And it could be very broad, or you could pinpoint. And it might change every single time you do it. You might have something different come to you, but that's how we co-create. So we focus less on the dark details. Again, the micro, oh my God, what is everybody saying today about, sleepy, that name? I don't want to get my channel taken down. Those people that are part of the dark web. Okay, who cares if that person trips again? I'm going to focus my energy on what's important. And some people are out there, being what's the word? Activists, but in a positive way, not fighting, but using their energy for positive. So raising awareness, activating, I don't know why I keep saying activating, being activists for positive change. It's so many different things. So many different things are occurring. Everybody's playing their role, but we have to stop perpetuating our this dark system with our thoughts and feeding into it with the loosh of our fears and our worry about, oh my God, this date's coming up. There's one that they're predicting coming up in a week and a half, or whenever it is, next week. If we all focus on that and we all freak out, who knows what ritual that they are harnessing our energy off of, because we're focusing on that. So that's number one. We don't know the nefarious behind the back end reason that's even being said. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. But if we say, I just keep saying I don't consent to that event unless it's in the highest good of humanity, like meaning that there's some positive intervention involved. And then I don't even think about it again. Now, maybe I'll have certain precautions that day. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll turn off the phones. Maybe I'll go outside for, a walk in my backyard and disconnect from electronics for a period of time. Maybe I'll keep the children home. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I'll decide in the moment, but I'm not going to lose sleep worrying about it. So that's how we shift. That's how we shift. We have a choice. Everybody watching this has a choice. Everybody has a choice of what they are going to focus their energy on. And energy, we can truly manifest and escalate different things in different directions based on what our thoughts are and what we are projecting out into the world. So think to yourself. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Think to yourself. Have a review every day. Okay. Or in that moment. Are the thoughts that I just had, or are the thoughts that I'm having right now, are they contributing positively to the collective? And I'm talking energetically at all, like the energy you're giving off right now, is it a positive contribution to the collective? If the answer is yes, then by all means, keep it up. If you're not sure, or you question it, or you're like, oh no, it's not a positive contribution, then stop and redirect your thoughts and say, I take a breath, release that, and say, I do not consent. Remember, that's our most powerful affirmation right now. I do not consent. Anytime you feel like you are getting wrapped up in ET interference or any 3D interference that I talk about, I do not consent. So it is. And that's it. And redirect your thoughts and say, and think about something positive, or what you want to positively manifest. By the way, did you guys know, fun fact, now that my nose is itching and I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Fun fact, when we are in our highest alignment and our pineal gland is open, how do I explain it? When our pineal gland is open and we are in our highest alignment in that moment, whatever that means, we open the channels of our third eye, and the pineal, and everything here opens up. And when that happens, you can get itchy eyes, and your nose will start to itch, not on the inside, but like it's like there's a funnel of air coming down your nose, or tickling, like somebody's got a feather and they're tickling your nose. If anyone watching this has experienced that, write me in a comment, let me know, because I want you to know what's happening. Not 100% of the time. Sometimes it is allergies. Sometimes the fan's on you and your hair's blowing and tickling you. But if that's not happening and you notice, pay attention. And when you feel like you're getting downloads or you're talking to somebody and like this wisdom is coming through, or you're feeling like you're just connected with your consciousness and your knowing and your innate knowing and you know your pineal is activated and you've got a lot of activation here. Notice if you feel like your nose is itchy, like right here, it feels like there's a draft just kind of in this area. Sometimes it'll be on your cheeks. Anyways, fun fact. I don't know why. Well, I mentioned that right now because I feel like that's happening. And I feel like this, it's like, I feel like somebody's messing with me and tickling my nose, but I know that that's what that is. So, okay, off track. Sorry. All right. I like to go off on tangents, and I don't know if I've bored any of you or I'm losing anybody or if I've even made any sense today. And because I have no idea where I left off or what I was talking about, I'll just end here. So manifestation, just be very mindful of your thoughts, live in gratitude, be open to the possibilities of something grander or even better than what you expected. Or what you're asking for, and just continuously check in with yourself. Is this in alignment with my highest good? Are my thoughts in alignment with my highest good? Are they constructive for the collective in a positive way? And you just make decisions based on that. And then, what's that game you used to play? Like, if yes, go this way, if no, go this way. So if you keep going, follow the direction that's in your highest good. And if you continuously check in with yourself, you might notice you start here, and then your previous self might have made all of these poor decisions and got into a low vibration, and you end up over here. But then now, as you're more mindful of your thoughts and your actions and your words and everything you're thinking and how you're manifesting, and you're living in gratitude, and you're not resentful or upset with other people because you realize that they're on their own journey and they make mistakes, and perhaps people have wronged you because you asked them to on another level, and you're forgiving the soul, maybe not necessarily the person if you're not ready, but you say, I disconnect myself from that soul at this time, and I thank you for whatever life lesson you came into my life for. Our contract is complete. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And you'll feel yourself become lighter and lighter, and then your trajectory will shift. So now it goes, it might go this way now. And then suddenly you feel like, oh, I'm a completely different person. I'm making completely different choices. And the better choices you make, the higher vibration you are in, and the more macro you become. And you think about things so different, and things click and they make sense. And that life review happens all the time. And you see it flash before your eyes. And I believe that if we all alter our perception in that way, where we are more self-driven and empowered in our ability to do that, then we are better able to assist others in their journey, or we'll be better parents, friends, children to our parents, etc. Whew. All right. I think that's probably not everything I wanted to say, but that's all I'm going to say at this time right now. And I hope that this video was helpful. Please leave a comment or two. Let me know if it resonated, if I rambled too much, if it makes sense, and if you have any questions. And just so everyone knows, as I get questions in certain videos, like I do here and in workshops, I make note of them and I write them down. And I'll often tell people, oh, I'll talk about that in the next live. So sometimes if people ask a question that's relevant enough for its own video, I'll do a video just on that. But if not, where it's not going to take me that much time, then I'll write a note and I will make a point to talk about that in a live. And I'll do another one probably in the next week or so. I just did an animal webinar. I highly recommend, if you haven't checked it out and you're interested in animals, I did a hour and a half webinar a couple months ago, and I just put it out on my YouTube channel a few days ago so that anybody can watch it. And I had a great question. Somebody asked about farm animals, and I thought, oh, I haven't talked about farm animals. So I've made note of that. So I'll talk about that at another time or on another live or something. So if you have specific questions, hang on to them, and I'll do another live soon, and we'll go over if I know it, I'll talk about it. If I don't know the answer, I don't try to pretend like I'm smarter than I am. So I'll just be blunt that I don't know the answer to it. So I only like to talk about things that I'm kind of confident about. If I don't, I try not to. Anyways, I hope that this video has found you guys well. I hope that you're benefiting from these videos. I appreciate all the love and all the positive comments and feedback that I do get. If you read the book, Starseeds and the Great Awakening, where a lot of this information is coming from, please feel free to leave a review if you haven't already. It helps get the book more out there so more people will see it. I guess until next time, I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye, everybody.